What's good, YouTube? Robert Johnson here, talking Philadelphia Eagles football today. I wanted to talk about the Jalen Hurts draft pick and why this is so overblown in Philadelphia culture. So, everybody knows Philly is not going to like whoever is under center, regardless of who it is. We didn't like McNabb, didn't like Cunningham, didn't like Wentz, didn't like Call, didn't like any Eagles starting quarterback, ever. My dad is forever going to say they're all trash and that we need Patrick Mahomes. But there's only one Patrick Mahomes, so we might as well settle for the next best option, which is Carson Wentz. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Jalen Hurts, second round pick, might have been the best option at quarterback available for the value. Now let me tell you why. Jalen Hurts is a very promising young football player with a high level of talent and athleticism. Very strong individual. Those of you thinking that he should be in the Taysom Hill role, maybe he can fulfill it, maybe he can't, but I don't think he has to. I think as long as he is a competent backup quarterback in our system, then this was a great draft pick. If you look at the backup quarterbacks that were on the market, we had the option of like a Cam Newton or a Jameis Winston, which really would have started a controversy of who the starting quarterback is, rather than some rookie with a couple years as a full-time starter getting benched in the national championship game. How is he a threat to Carson Wentz? Eagles fans, he is not a threat to Carson Wentz. Stop saying he is a threat to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is a threat to Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz stays healthy, this job is his. We won't hear about it. 4 years, Hurts might get traded. He might stay the backup forever. The Eagles, in the last 10 years, have tried to have a quarterback 1A and a quarterback 1B. We have not tried to have a backup quarterback that wasn't the literal best backup quarterback in the league. Cam Newton wouldn't stay a backup quarterback, so we can't sign him. Jameis Winston would still bring controversy. We can't sign him. Jalen Hurts, second round pick, high ceiling, potential trade value if he doesn't work out. We might be able to get a third, fourth, fifth round pick from him, out of him years down the line. Or even if Hurts is our starting quarterback, we can get a high draft pick from Wentz, similarly to how we flipped Sam Bradford. I understand most of the frustrations come from people like Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason being available later in the draft, but these guys don't have nearly as much potential as Jalen Hurts does. Let's not forget this man was a starter at Alabama full time and held that starting position until a top 5 draft pick, Tua Tagovailoa, if I said that correctly, took over his job in the national championship game because he was a better fit for the offense against that team. Jalen Hurts is always going to have opportunities on the field. He is a quarterback. He just happens to be athletic enough to run and can squat 600 pounds as a freshman. This man's a freak athlete. Let's not be disappointed about this pick. This man has potential on the football field somewhere. If he's willing to move positions, great. But I don't think he needs to. I think he will fit in his role just fine. Fromm and Eason don't have nearly as much talent. Yes, we could have added another player and then got them later in the draft, but we got other picks later in the draft to fit roles. The linebacker role, we did get a linebacker. We got Kevon Wallace out of Clemson to fill the safety role, back up. Hopefully he can step in, be a starter for us some years down the line. Who knows how Mills is going to step up this year. We'll see. But I feel like it was a successful draft as long as what we have on paper and what we have in our head lines up with what we see on the field. We will be okay. Eagles fans, don't panic. We're trying to go back. I don't really understand why Jalen Hurts is such a controversial pick based on the Eagles' track record. The Eagles have always, especially in recent years, Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman era, we have always tried to have the next best option at quarterback. Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP, best backup quarterback in the league at the time. And it paid dividends. We want to have the most well-balanced and well-rounded team. We don't want to end up in a situation where we had one player who fulfills one role, like how Deshaun Jackson was our only burner last year, and he got hurt, and then we completely lost that element out of the team. We don't want that. We're trying to be prepared this year. Injuries destroyed our season the last couple of years. This is the most important year in Eagles football since the Super Bowl. We could be back in the Super Bowl if this draft goes well and our acquisitions all fit into their team roles very well. And the Jalen Hurts pick does not impair this. Yes, there were other players available. What was the corner? I think it was a Virginia Tech guy. I can't remember who the corner's name was off the top of my head. I'll post it somewhere on the screen here. But he was a great player, good value. But I guess they felt like we had enough competition in the Eagles cornerback room that it was unnecessary. Sidney Jones and Avonte Maddox are going to be competing for the other spot, opposite of D. Slay. Nikel Roby-Coleman and Avonte Maddox are going to compete for that slot job. Maybe even Cap Cravon. He might be in the mix of that too. Mills and McLeod over top at safety. I mean, our secondary is pretty much already set. Drafting a rookie would have just gave us more potential down the road. But we have people that can fit into these roles. If Sidney Jones excels this year, then that pick pays dividends. That was another second-round pick. And if y'all see, the Eagles are risky with these second-round picks. We are going for 10 years of potential down the road in the second round. High risk, high reward type players in the second round. This has been a trend. Sidney Jones coming off the Achilles injury. Guys, just be open to what the Eagles are trying to do here. Be appreciative. We're trying to stay a step ahead. Wentz goes down, we want a competent backup. Josh McCown was old. Resigning him might work for a year, maybe another 2, but I mean, the man was very old. We saw he couldn't compete at a playoff level of football, but he was competent enough to be a backup. And lost to the Seahawks. I don't want to talk about it, long story short. We needed a more competent quarterback, a backup quarterback. If Foles was there, we possibly win that game. Jalen Hurts adds a running element to the game that we have not had in a while. So remember, we brought Marty Mornhinweg back, and remember when Michael Vick first came to the team, we used to put Vick out in the slot, out wide, just to have a second person on the field who can throw the football. Trey Burton, Super Bowl, the famous play, Philly special. An extra option, a player that can fit a role of a slot receiver and is athletic enough to still throw the football is very challenging to defend. So imagine we have a set with Greg Ward, a former quarterback at Houston, Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts all on the field. That's 3 players that can throw the football. We can have a double pass. We can have many plays out of that. As long as we use him to the best of his abilities and not to what the player we think we want him to be, this is a good draft pick. This will fulfill a team role that is much needed. That second round pick fills our backup quarterback spot for the next 4 years. And this is what we wanted. We wanted a competent backup quarterback that did not cost a lot of money, because we were paying our backups a ton of money. Remember, Foles was one of the highest paid, well, I think he was the highest paid backup in the league at the time. He might have been even getting more than Carson Wentz at the time. No, he couldn't, because Carson Wentz was the top 5 pick. But he was getting millions of dollars to be a backup. And now we have a cheap backup, and we were able to invest in other players. We added Jerron Hargrave, a bunch of other defensive players. We're trying to go for depth here. Yes, we might not have the most talent at linebacker that we've ever had. We might not have the most talented DBs, but we have a lot of players that do one thing very well, specific to Jim Schwartz's role in the defense. And on offense, we have burners. We have big bodies like Alshon and Arcega-Whiteside. We got the slot guys like Ward, who can also pose a running threat if we use Hurts correctly. In some, I mean, if they want to use him like Taysom Hill on special teams, that's great if we have a passing option. And that level of athleticism on the field, it just gives us more versatility as a team. I see this as a team building pick. This is not a diss to Carson Wentz. This is not disrespectful to Carson Wentz. This is not a testament of Carson Wentz's play level or ability. This is specifically a best roster pick. They picked the best player available for their situation. They needed a player that could fill this role, and if Jalen Hurts is half of what we've seen in college, he will fill this role very well. I'm sorry, EDP. It was the right pick. It was the right pick. I would love Espinenza, if I said his name right, the defensive end. He would have been a great pick, but we do have Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, what's his name? Deshaun Hall. All of these guys showed flashes of potential last year. They were coming into their own, honestly. So we need to see how they build in year 2. This is going to be an interesting year, you know, with all the COVID-19 things going on. The players have plenty of time to train and get better and stronger and faster. Hopefully we can have an injury-free season if it starts. But I just wanted to talk about the Jalen Hurts draft pick. I think it was a smart move. It could potentially pay dividends long term. Even if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out in our system, we can get draft compensation for him or Carson Wentz, for those of you that believe Carson Wentz isn't a starter. Even though Carson Wentz, in my opinion, is a top 10 quarterback in the league and should not go anywhere. What he did with no receivers last year was an accomplishment in its own. Throwing for 4,000 yards. For the first time in Philadelphia Eagles history, I might add, a quarterback threw for 4,000 yards. And on top of that, did it without a receiver over 500. It's very impressive. Deshaun Jackson was hurt. Alshon Jeffrey was hurt. Nelson Aguilar was Nelson Aguilar. And that sums up the Eagles season. Darren Sproles was hurt. Miles Sanders was the entire offense. And Zach Ertz. When he wasn't double covered, then Goddard got the ball. Now we have three receivers, Hightower, Jackson, Goodwin, all running 4.3s. There's one more speed pickup. I can't think of his name right now. Forgive me. But the Eagles were looking to fill out their roster, and I think they did an effective job of that in the draft. Leave your thoughts down below on the Eagles draft in my comments. Robert Johnson here. Go to robertjohnsonfitness.com for coaching, nutritional plans, nutritional advice, questions, anything of that sort, training programs. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Go follow my Instagram, rjfit05, TikTok, rjfit05. I'm rambling a bit, but these are my thoughts. Sorry, EDP. It was the right move. It did hurt me a little bit to see Shook sitting there like that. I hope you feel better. Pay me.